Let me ask you something that might sound too simple to matter, but could be the one thing quietly stealing your strength as a man. What if the very first thing you drink every morning, that glass of ice-cold water you've come to believe is healthy and refreshing, is actually sabotaging your ability to have a strong, lasting erection? Not years from now, not next month. I'm talking about tonight. This isn't just about water temperature. It's about the way your blood vessels respond to sudden cold, and how that small, seemingly harmless shock might be tightening the very pathways your blood needs to reach the place it matters most. I've spent over 30 years sitting across from men just like you, good men, smart men, who couldn't understand why their bodies were suddenly failing them. And I can tell you, more often than not, the culprit isn't some exotic disease or complex hormonal issue. It's something hiding in plain sight. I've seen firsthand how something as ordinary as a morning glass of ice water can turn into an invisible trap, especially for men over 60 whose blood vessels are already more fragile and less responsive than they once were. Your body isn't the same machine it was at 30. The truth is, your blood flow, the very foundation of your sexual health, relies on a delicate balance that can be disrupted by the smallest triggers. And cold, abrupt cold, is one of the worst. Now, I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to help you understand the hidden connections. Because once you see what's really happening beneath the surface, you can take back control. And the good news is, there's a small change you can make starting tomorrow morning that may be enough to shift the entire direction of your day and your nights. But before I explain exactly what that change is, I want you to see the problem for what it really is: a silent, everyday habit that tightens your arteries at the exact moment you need them to open. Now here's where the story takes a surprising turn, and where most men, even the health-conscious ones, are caught completely off guard. You see, your body isn't just a passive system that accepts whatever you put into it. It's reactive. It adapts, defends, and most of all, it protects. And one of the fastest ways your body defends itself is through a response called vasoconstriction, the sudden tightening of blood vessels whenever it senses cold. Think of it as a survival switch that's hardwired into your nervous system. The moment you swallow something cold, like a tall glass of ice water, your brain sends an urgent signal to narrow the vessels in your skin and extremities, pulling blood inward to keep your core warm. On a winter hike, that's a gift. But in the quiet morning hours, when your body is just waking up, that same reaction can become a silent saboteur, especially for men over 60, whose vascular systems have already lost some of their youthful resilience. Let me walk you through it. When you're aroused, the process is almost poetic in its coordination. Your brain sends a message down your spinal cord to the nerves in your pelvis. Those nerves release nitric oxide, a miracle molecule, really which relaxes the walls of the blood vessels and allows them to expand. In those precious seconds, blood rushes into 2 chambers in the penis, creating the firmness and pressure needed for an erection. But aging changes the playing field. Over time, the lining of your vessels becomes less flexible. Years of small injuries, cholesterol buildup, and oxidative stress start to narrow the inner walls. Add to that a natural decline in nitric oxide levels as you age, and what used to be an open highway for blood becomes more like a winding back road full of detours. Now imagine this. Your arteries are already compromised, trying to do more with less. And just when you need them most, whether to power your brain in the morning or to respond to intimacy, you shock them with cold. It's like trying to pour syrup through a straw that's been pinched at both ends. The blood just doesn't get where it needs to go. And while a younger man's body might bounce back from that kind of shock with ease, yours may take longer or fail entirely. That moment of constriction, harmless as it seems, could be the exact reason your body isn't rising to the occasion when it should. I still remember one patient in his mid-60s who swore by his icy morning ritual. To him, it was invigorating, a way to jumpstart the day. But what he didn't realize was that each sip was dialing back his circulation right at the moment he needed it to open. And the science backs this up. According to the Mayo Clinic, age-related changes in vascular health can significantly impair erectile function, not because desire fades, but because delivery fails. You want to show up fully, but your blood can't make the trip. And if your morning routine includes anything that tightens those arteries further, you're making a hard job even harder. The good news? This isn't irreversible. But first, you have to see the habit for what it really is. Not just a cold drink, but a cold signal. One that, over time, can whisper your confidence away if you don't step in and change it. Most men I've treated over the years believe that drinking more water is always a good thing. And in general, they're right. Hydration is critical to circulation. But what they often don't realize is that how and when you drink water, especially cold water, can make all the difference between supporting your health and unknowingly sabotaging it. What I'm about to share with you might explain years of quiet frustration. I can't count how many times I've sat across from a man in his 60s or 70s, listening to him describe how he's doing everything right, eating well, staying active, drinking plenty of water, and yet still finding himself unable to perform when it matters most. And when I ask him to walk me through his daily routine, I almost always hear some version of the same 3 habits. Habits that seem harmless, even responsible, but that are quietly working against him. The first of these is starting the day with a big glass of ice water. I know it sounds refreshing, especially after a long night's sleep, but here's what most people don't know. During the night, your body naturally shifts into a state of mild dehydration. Your vessels are already slightly narrowed, and your circulation is just beginning to wake up. When you introduce freezing cold water into that delicate moment, it's like shocking your system before it's ready. The vessels constrict even more, just when they should be opening to rehydrate your organs and prime your circulation. Instead of flowing freely, your blood slows down, and the reduced supply reaches everywhere, including the place you rely on for intimacy. It's like trying to sprint with your shoelaces tied. The second mistake happens in the evening, often without a second thought, drinking ice water right before intimacy. You may not think twice about it, a few sips to calm your nerves, cool down, or stay hydrated. But in that moment, you are asking your blood vessels to do 2 opposite things. You need them to relax, widen, and allow a surge of blood. But the cold you just introduced sends a conflicting signal, telling those same vessels to tighten. That clash, one foot on the gas, the other on the brake, can stall everything before it even begins. And for older men whose arteries already struggle to respond quickly, that mismatch can be enough to keep you from rising to the occasion. The third mistake is more subtle, but just as important. It's drinking large gulps of cold water right after a heavy meal. After eating, your body naturally diverts blood to your digestive system. It's a coordinated effort, sending blood to your stomach and intestines to break down and absorb nutrients. But when you chase your meal with ice water, you're tightening the very vessels that are supposed to deliver that blood. So, instead of nourishing your digestive organs efficiently, you end up with sluggish circulation and, once again, less blood available where it counts most. Especially after dinner, when intimacy might follow, this combination can set you up for disappointment without you ever realizing why. What makes all 3 of these habits so dangerous isn't just the cold itself, it's the timing. It's the fact that they happen at pivotal moments, right when your body needs openness, flexibility, and flow. But instead, you're sending a signal of constriction. And if you're over 60, your system doesn't have the same margin for error it used to. A younger man might recover in seconds, but for you, it might take much longer or not happen at all. And here's the most frustrating part. Most men never make the connection. They think their issues are about aging or stress or hormones. But in truth, they're often about habit, a simple, repeated choice that slowly chips away at performance. And once you see it clearly, you can start to change it with no pills, no procedures, and no shame. Just knowledge and a better way forward. One of the most common things I hear from men who walk into my office, often after months or even years of quiet frustration, is this: "Doc, I've been doing the same things for decades. Why is it only now that I'm having trouble?" And I always pause before I answer, not because the explanation is complicated, but because it's personal. You see, the habits themselves haven't changed, but you have. And what used to be harmless, even beneficial, can quietly turn on you with age. Your body, like every piece of finely tuned machinery, wears over time. But unlike a car or a tool, it doesn't come with a warning light. The changes are subtle at first: a little less energy in the morning, a bit more stiffness in the knees, a longer recovery after a late night. And when it comes to circulation and sexual health, those changes often start where you least notice them, in the blood vessels. Over the years, the walls of your arteries lose flexibility. Decades of stress, small injuries, and microscopic inflammation leave them stiffer, less responsive. The medical term is endothelial dysfunction, and it's one of the earliest markers of cardiovascular aging. It means that even when your brain sends the right signals, when your heart is ready, your nerves are firing, the vessels may not get the message, or respond too slowly. But that's only part of the story. As you age, your body also produces less nitric oxide, the molecule responsible for signaling those vessels to relax and expand. At 30, you might have had more than enough, but by 60 or 70, your reserves are thinner. That means your blood vessels don't just respond slower. Sometimes they don't respond at all. Add in lower testosterone, which plays a critical role in nerve sensitivity and desire, and you've got a system that's no longer operating at full strength. And here's something many men never consider. Even your nerves, the highways that carry the signals from your brain to your pelvis, start to conduct more slowly with age. So the whole process becomes more fragile, more prone to disruption. What might have once been a strong, seamless chain of events becomes a delicate balancing act. One small interference, a cold shock, a tight vessel, a delayed signal, and the whole thing falters. That's why I tell my patients, it's not that you're doing something wrong. It's that your body now needs a little more cooperation. What used to be good enough might no longer be safe or effective. And that's not a flaw. It's biology. I once treated a retired firefighter, strong, proud, used to pushing through pain. He told me, "I've eaten the same breakfast, drank the same cold water every day for 40 years. Why now?" And I looked him in the eye and said, "Because your body doesn't have 40 years of cushion anymore." That moment hit him hard, not because he was weak, but because no one had ever explained it to him like that. And once he understood the biology not as a failure, but as a natural shift, he made changes. Small, smart ones. And within weeks, he felt stronger, more in control, more himself again. That's what this part of the journey is really about. Not fear, not loss, but understanding. When you realize that your age hasn't betrayed you, it's just calling for a different kind of support, you can stop blaming yourself and start choosing better. Because the truth is, your body still wants to respond. It just needs your help. And that help starts with recognizing how small habits like the way you drink water can either support or sabotage your most vital systems. Here's the twist that surprises nearly every man I talk to. Cold water isn't the enemy. In fact, used wisely, it can still be part of a healthy routine. But the way you drink it, the timing, the temperature, the intention behind it, makes all the difference. I've had patients look at me with puzzled eyes when I tell them this. "Doc," they say, "didn't you just explain how it tightens my blood vessels?" And I nod, because yes, it can. But like so many things in health, the real secret lies in how we apply the knowledge. It's not about banning cold water. It's about making it work with your body, not against it. Let's start with the morning. When you first wake up, your body is coming out of a mild dehydrated state. Your blood vessels are naturally more constricted, your circulation still sluggish, your organs just beginning to stretch into the day. This is not the time to slam them with a shock. Instead, begin with a glass of warm or room temperature water. It's a small gesture, but one that gently nudges your vessels open, easing your body into movement. That simple switch, replacing cold with warm first thing in the morning, can improve blood flow not just to your brain and heart, but to the one part of you that may need it most when intimacy calls. It's the kind of change you feel, even if you can't always see it. Later in the day, if you enjoy colder water, take it slow, sip instead of chug. Give your system time to adapt. Avoid massive gulps that flood your core with icy signals. Your blood vessels will thank you for the grace. And when it comes to moments before intimacy, this is where timing becomes crucial. You want your vessels relaxed and ready. So give yourself at least 45 minutes, ideally an hour, between consuming cold water and engaging in sexual activity. That gives your circulatory system time to recover, to warm, and to respond to arousal the way nature intended. Throughout the day, steady hydration is your quiet ally. Small, consistent sips of water keep your blood volume stable, your pressure balanced, and your energy level more predictable. And when combined with simple circulation-boosting habits like light walking, breathing exercises, or nitrate-rich foods, spinach, beets, arugula, you give your vascular system the support it needs to perform. None of this requires expensive supplements or invasive treatments. It's about rhythm. It's about learning how your body speaks and choosing to listen with intention. I had one gentleman, a retired teacher in his 70s, who made this single change. He swapped his early morning ice water for warm. He began sipping slowly instead of gulping. That was it. No medications, no big lifestyle overhauls. And after a few weeks, he looked at me and said, "I don't know why no one told me this sooner. I feel more in sync with myself." That's the kind of shift we're after, not just physical, but personal. Because when your body works with you, not against you, everything feels easier. This isn't about giving up comfort. It's about upgrading awareness. And if one simple glass of warm water in the morning can gently turn the tide of your circulation, isn't it worth the try? There's a cost that most men don't talk about. It doesn't show up in blood tests. It's not something your insurance will ever cover. But it's real. And it runs deeper than any medical diagnosis. I've seen it behind the eyes of strong, intelligent men who sit across from me and quietly confess something they've carried alone for far too long. They say things like, "I just don't feel like myself anymore." Or worse, "I feel like I'm letting her down." And they're not talking about physical failure. They're talking about something far more personal, the erosion of confidence, connection, and identity that comes when your body no longer responds the way it used to. The truth is, erectile health is about more than blood flow. It's about self-respect. It's about being able to look in the mirror and recognize the man staring back. For many men, especially those over 60, the shift is so gradual they don't notice it at first. They start avoiding certain moments. They laugh off invitations with a joke. They stop reaching for their partner at night. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin to shrink not in size, but in spirit. They stop asking for what they want. They stop believing they can still feel vibrant, still feel needed, still feel alive. One patient, I'll never forget him, sat in my office with his hands folded so tight they turned red. He was in his late 60s, retired Navy, the kind of man who didn't flinch easily. But when he finally spoke, his voice cracked. "I don't want her to think I've given up," he said, "but I don't know how to explain what's happening." What broke him wasn't the occasional failed erection. It was the silence that followed. The questions he never answered. The moments he turned away from her touch, not because he didn't love her, but because he was ashamed of what his body wouldn't do. That kind of emotional weight is heavy, It builds quietly, feeding a cycle of doubt, avoidance, and guilt. And the worst part? Most men think it's just something they have to accept, a fact of aging, a punishment they don't deserve but have no choice but to live with. But let me tell you what I've learned after 3 decades of treating men from every walk of life. It's not inevitable. It's not irreversible. And it's certainly not something you're meant to carry alone. Often the turning point isn't some miracle drug or surgical solution. It's understanding. The moment a man realizes that his struggles have a name, a pattern, a cause, and most importantly, a path forward, that's when things begin to shift. That's when he stops retreating and starts reclaiming. And sometimes, all it takes is one small practical change to remind him that he still has power, that his best days aren't behind him, that with the right support, he can feel like himself again. So if you've been holding this quiet frustration, if you've been wondering whether it's too late, I want you to know it's not. Your body still wants to work. Your heart still wants to connect. And your partner? She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for you, the real you. And the journey back to him can begin with something as small as a different glass of water tomorrow morning. If you only remember one thing from everything we've shared today, let it be this. Start your morning with warm water. That's it. No pills, no radical diets, no complicated routines. Just a single conscious choice the moment you wake up. I know how that sounds. Too simple, too ordinary to make a real difference. But sometimes, the smallest adjustments done consistently carry the biggest power. And in the case of your circulation, your confidence, and your connection, this tiny shift could mark the turning point. When you begin your day with warm or room temperature water, you're giving your blood vessels a message of safety, not stress. You're inviting your system to open, to circulate, to energize. You're removing the jolt, the clenching reflex, the silent clamping down that cold water causes in your already aging arteries. And the effect ripples outward. Better circulation in the morning often means better energy throughout the day, clearer focus, and when the time comes, stronger, more dependable intimacy. I had a patient once, an accountant named Henry, 71 years old. He came to me after struggling in silence for over a year. No major health issues, no medications, just a creeping sense that something was slipping. He'd been drinking cold water every morning because that's what he'd always done. When I explained the physiology, he raised an eyebrow and said, "You really think a glass of warm water is going to fix this?" I told him I didn't think it would fix everything, but I knew it could be the first domino. And it was. Within weeks, his energy improved. Within months, his confidence returned. He didn't become a different man. He became more of himself again. And it all started with a cup of warm water. There's something deeply empowering about realizing you don't need to overhaul your life to reclaim it. You just need to stop fighting your biology, work with it, listen to it, and choose in ways that support it, gently and persistently. Because your body is still listening. Your blood vessels are still capable. Your system still wants to perform, it just needs the chance to do so without interference. This isn't about miracles. It's about momentum. One good choice leads to another. One positive result fuels the next. And when you build a routine that supports your body, instead of stressing it, everything begins to align. You stand taller. You breathe deeper. You show up more fully, not just in the bedroom, but in your life. So, if you're waiting for the perfect time to start, let this be it, tomorrow morning. Not next week. Not after another frustration. Just one glass of warm water. That's your first move. And from there, everything else becomes possible. We've covered a lot today, but at its core, the message is simple. Your erections are not just about arousal, they're about circulation. And your circulation is shaped by the choices you make every day. Not dramatic, life-altering choices, but quiet, repeatable ones. like the way you start your morning, like what you drink when no one's watching. These details matter, not because they define your worth, but because they shape your experience. And when you start making even one of them work for you, not against you, you begin to feel that shift in your body, in your confidence, in the way you carry yourself through the day. We talked about the silent reflex of cold-induced vasoconstriction, how timing matters more than most men realize, how aging changes your response, but not your potential. We looked at simple ways to support your vascular health without prescriptions, without shame, and we saw that sometimes the first step to healing isn't a treatment, it's understanding, choosing to see the pattern, choosing to believe that you still have control. So here's my challenge for you. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for the ice, try warm water instead. Just once. See how your body feels. See how your energy responds. And if you notice a difference, even a small one, keep going. Stack those small wins. Build from them. Because the path back to strength, vitality, and connection, it doesn't require perfection, just consistency, just care. And if this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button. Share this video with a friend who might be quietly wondering the same things you were. And leave a comment below, even just a one, if you've ever questioned what your body was trying to tell you. Your story matters, and your willingness to speak up could help another man realize he's not alone in this. You're not broken. You're just being called to listen more closely. And I believe with the right support, you'll not only feel better, you'll remember what it feels like to be fully you again.